This may seem like deja vu all over again after what he just said. I'm going to reiterate in my own words. My name is David William Fisher. I am the climate chair of the Iroquois group of the Sierra Club. I'm a biologist, more specifically a mycologist, more specifically an expert on mushrooms. I'm also a father, and I'm a grandfather. And in 2009, after hearing an increase in assertions that global warming was something Al Gore recently made up for political reasons, I chose to bring myself fully up to date on the hard data pertinent to global warming. That's the most sobering investigation any evolutionary biologist can pursue, if you understand the extraordinary danger to our species of changing this planet from the conditions within which and for which Homo sapiens evolved. Pardon me if this seems cynical, but the draft energy plan honestly is mystifying, as if its authors read 2 or 3 paragraphs about fossil fuel, greenhouse gases, and global warming and climate change, and the infrared heat-trapping potential of methane. Pardon me if this seems cynical, but if I didn't know better, I'd swear this report was co-authored by Aubrey McClendon himself. To suggest that our energy path forward requires natural gas and other fossil fuels seems to me an assertion of hopelessness, for it is exceptionally clear that continued reliance on fossil fuels, particularly the new fossil fuels, which are available only via extreme, grossly pollutional modes of extraction and processing, is the surest way to ensure that humans fall victim to the longer-term impacts of our short-term energy binge. I'm amazed at the understanding of clear basic science that so many of my fellow citizens are demonstrating today in their comments here is apparently not matched by the authors of the draft energy plan. Enough on climate. Let's talk money. I'd like to finish by making a point of which every New York State citizen, regardless of what he or she may think about fracking, ought to be aware. And that point is that the natural gas industry has every intention of building the facilities needed to turn North America's fracked gas into a global commodity, which is guaranteed soon enough to turn today's modest natural gas prices into a memory like gasoline pump prices of less than $1 a gallon. For God's sakes, if we can't turn away from fossil fuels and strongly, ingeniously, diligently work toward a new, sensible approach to energy, because not so doing so is environmentally obtuse. Let's do it because we don't want to be trapped by an energy industry whose overriding concern is for profit, and for whom the financial security of New York State taxpayers is of no concern unless it adversely impacts corporate profit. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Riona or Rena Loeb, followed by Emily Bishop.
Hi, I'm Rima Loeb from Afton, and I want to express, first of all, my agreement with most of what's been said here, and well said, better said than the official document that came out as an energy plan. It's disgraceful. You know, I hear people saying, thank you for hearing us. And I don't know if you are hearing us. It doesn't seem that way. Are you hearing the scientists who are telling you about climate change and it's real, man? And by 2050, if we haven't done something significant, we don't know where we're going to be. Now, I won't be here then, but my great-grandchildren will, and perhaps their children. Do you have any grandchildren or great-grandchildren, or just children? If you do, think about them as you're making these decisions. Think about them. This isn't some fantasy. You know, you're not all going to escape to, as during the Cold War, some underground shelter where we'll all be safe. No. Sirs, this planet, as indigenous people know, is alive. We say our mother. You don't have to adapt that. Just follow what your scientists tell you, for heaven's sakes, because it's all one. It's the truth. And I'm asking you, if you can't do what's right because of your job or your money, stop and think of your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and everyone else's. Please, we don't have a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Emily Bishop, excuse me, to be followed by Peter King.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Nice to meet you. My name is Emily Bishop, and I'm the regional coordinator with New Yorkers Against Fracking in Central New York. And I work with most of the people that showed up today. We show up to, rallies at Cuomo's doorstep. We show up in Albany. We do all of these things to make you hear us, and it's been really a pleasure working with everyone here. It's really special, and we're building a community, and we've been fighting fracking, and we participate. We're here. We were here last year and the year before that when you released the regulations on fracking, and we stopped that. That was us, and that was the work of me and so many other people in this room, and it's the public, and we are your connection here, right? Like, we got all these people here today because I don't remember seeing anything in our newspaper that this was even happening. That didn't come from us. So I believe that's part of the process of this all happening. Anyways, I'd just like to let you know that I'll be 60 in 2050, and you all probably won't be around. And I don't want to be in this room in 2050 talking about the same stuff. I want to be out in my community, and I want to be installing solar panels on all of these people's homes. I want to stop working against fracking, and I want to start working for renewable energy. So if this plan helps me do that, I would greatly appreciate it. And maybe some way that could happen is if NYSERDA actually had some money, instead of paying a graphic designer to, put all those pretty pictures in your plan, that money could go towards hiring community organizers like myself to actually implement these plans, to implement renewable energy, to implement Solarize Syracuse, for example. That would be really great. I'd work with you on that. You have to include us in it, right? Because we are the ones making the decisions for our communities. We have banned fracking, we have resisted pipelines, we have solarized Tompkins County, we have done all of these things that we want you to do, but we are doing it instead. And this plan doesn't make it any easier for us to do that work. And we'd like for the plan to have that included. We want a plan that includes jobs to increase the capacity of our community, like I just mentioned, and we want jobs that include technicians and engineers and whoever else is needed to hook up every city to a renewable energy grid. And we'd rather much start working on actual solutions than continue fighting something that threatens the health of all of beings, most especially our precious water resources. And if we can all get organized to keep fracking out of our state, imagine what we're going to do when you set it up so that we can actually implement renewable energy solutions. We are the ones that are going to do that work for you. So if you make it easier for us to do it, then imagine what we can do. If we can keep fracking out of our state, which we're going to keep doing, and we're going to keep our energy there until it's banned, you're going to be losing all of our organizing capacity and all of our resources, banning fracking instead of working towards renewable energy. What do you want? Do you want us to keep trying to ban fracking, or would you rather have all these people all across New York State working on renewable energy? Please, seriously, I don't want to be fighting fracking when I'm 60. I'm 23, I feel bad for all these people that are sitting in this room that have to say, oh, I've been fighting this for years, and thank God I have them to show me the way because our government isn't doing it, so thank you. Something else I want to talk about is that I was an accessibility proxy at SUNY Purchase, and I had some friends that use wheelchairs, and I'm very familiar and observant of accessibility issues, especially on SUNY campuses, which are not all ADA compliant, mind you, especially even this building, which is brand new, and the parking situation, it's going to be $15 for me to park here today, and I'm 23, and I have an organizing position. I don't want to spend $15 to park 2 participate in a public hearing. That's ridiculous. And I also don't want to have to print a lot of colored pages so that my community can physically read the energy plan document. So if you could please, this is a specific request that you could easily do, is put the document in PDF form without all the graphics so that we can print it and get it out to our communities. Yeah, and I also think that the accessibility thing actually violates open meetings law, section 103B. It states that public bodies shall make or cause to be made all reasonable efforts to ensure that meetings are held in facilities that permit barrier-free physical access to the physically handicapped as defined in subdivision 5 of section 50 of the Public Buildings Law. And any parking, even the parking garage that you told us to park in, we called your office several times in the past 3 weeks, is located downhill, making the location inaccessible to the elderly and disabled. So it's not like we had enough time to even file that, because I read that in the rules that we have to file before the meeting happens, but we didn't have enough time to do that. So even though there's an open meeting law, we can't do anything about it. So I just hope you notice that you're in compliance with open meeting law. And thank you for listening, and really I hope that you make the right decisions so that I can work for you on renewable energy instead of being at your doorstep demanding a ban on fracking. Thank you.
Peter King, followed by Rosalie Richter.
Good afternoon. My name is Peter King. I'm working on accessible and sustainable transportation in Syracuse with Moving People Transportation Coalition, but I'm here as a private citizen, and I live in Syracuse. I agree with the bulk of the comments so far, especially those concerns regarding natural gas impacts on climate, health, and eventual depletion, and as well the nuclear concerns, given our current climate and peak oil context. And as well, for at least a century, our society has separated public health and community planning, and this is observed more and more. I find the energy plan does acknowledge the effects of this disparity, especially in urban centers. However, as other comments have observed, the synthesis of vision and base data here seems lacking. The plan does also acknowledge the climate crisis. However, as many other speakers have detailed, the plan lacks ambitious and measurable targets, and the current science regarding methane emissions from different kinds of hydraulic fracturing. I agree that New York State has been appropriately cautious regarding the fracking revolution, and however, as others observed, that the plan fails to integrate public safety with energy planning, especially regarding methane from hydrofracking and nuclear expansion to meet the projected targets. These risks are simply not worth our continued investment. I encourage NYSERDA to tap your network and connect with the enormous potential for conserving energy and renewables while minding public health. I emphasize conserving over merely efficiency. And as one example of the potential, there's currently something called the Weatherization Plus Health Initiative on the federal scale. And they've done a few pilots of this countrywide. And what they do is they combine they streamline a lot of the federal aid to lower income residents who have housing with lead, asbestos, and other concerns. And so they enable these residents to do one-stop shopping so that they can remediate the lead, the asbestos poisons, while also insulating their house in one stroke. So the state of New Hampshire has engaged in this and is successfully running a Weatherization Plus Health pilot. And New York State could take a cue from New Hampshire. We can also greatly reduce dirty energy and greenhouse gas by improving our public transportation. Transit demand is greatly increasing for the first time in decades, both in New York State and nationally, and worldwide, actually. transit can greatly reduce greenhouse gas, and we need a revival. You could expand your expressed electric motor focus to include public transit. As well, in Syracuse, for example, we have a lot of natural gas buses, which probably, and though I haven't studied this, have the potential for a lot of leakage, which contributes to ozone eventually in the urban situation. Our neighbor Quebec City has recently converted to 100% electric transit, I understand. Electric buses could implement a meaningful and contagious change for cleaning our dirty urban air sheds and getting people to work. So I do urge NYSERDA to pursue linking energy, climate science, and public health, and enlist the many citizens groups focused on these challenges, as many people have urged you to do so today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Rosalie Richter. Alice Brumbach. Oh, it's Rosalie, sorry. To be followed by Alice Brumbach.
Hello, I'm Rosalie Richter. I'm a 70-year-old retired school psychologist and grandmother of 4. I've worked also in hospitals. I've spent many years working in this state and other states in the Middle Atlantic states and New England. Despite a full career, I've had my finger on the environmental issues all these years. I have a son who's a farmer in this state, and I feel very strongly about these issues. I've ridden the crest of the prosperity of having been a war baby and a child of the post-war era. But the critical word here is crest. We've profited from cheap energy for which we're paying a huge environmental price, and the time is now to switch gears. Fossil fuel energy is a dinosaur of our time. It's time to move on to energy sources that are less damaging to the environment. And we don't need the government supporting the dinosaur. We need the government supporting moving into a cleaner, more technologically survivable, sustainable source of energy. The plan, the draft energy plan, does state some admirable goals for reducing the climate damage. But as so many people here have pointed out, there are no teeth in this draft. And it has not been informed by the many, many public and scientific responses to the draft for fracking legislation, and it's not been informed by the hundreds and thousands of letters for the fracking infrastructure that have been submitted to the state by the citizens here and from all over the state. I cannot believe that this document was put together without considering the mass of citizen comment that's already available to all of you. I would also share my concern about the lack of information about this meeting. I only heard about this meeting days ago, and I have to apologize if my comments are not organized, because I haven't had time to put together a response to this. And it was difficult getting here. And there are so many people who would like to respond. You've seen in the rallies that there are 2,000, 4,000 people who turn up to this, but this is not convenient. And as citizens, we have a right to know when a hearing for citizens is being provided. We shouldn't have to work to find it out. It should be there in our newspapers. It should be telegraphed to all of us. Okay. And again, now looking at these regulations, they do not, at the draft plan, it doesn't address major threats to our environment. It leaves out so many. It has glaring omissions in terms of global concerns, national concerns, state concerns, our local community concerns, and our families, our children, our grandchildren. These these things are not being addressed. And what are some of these threats? Excuse me. First of all, the major threat of global warming. And this is something that's impacting the globe. And I don't think I have to raise statistics or anything that's been well done by people here already today. There's also the threats to our water supply. And I'm not talking about just the water supply in our fresh water, but also the ocean, because we have a huge problem now with the sequestration of CO2 in the ocean, which is causing it to acidify, and it's already affecting the ability of plants and animals in the ocean to reproduce themselves because of the acidity. And also, with such a small portion of the world's water potable, why are we threatening this precious resource in this state? Again, the statistics and things have already been presented. And then there is all the collateral damage through pollution. And I'm not just talking about the pollution, the air pollution, the methane, the hexane, all those that mix of volatile chemicals that's going into the air. But there's damage to the people who live right next to these things. One of the previous speakers said that there are 15 million people living within 1 mile of these fracking wells, and this plan would not prevent hundreds and thousands of gas wells in this state. And the same problem. We know from research that it causes the emissions around fracking stations cause birth defects, they cause allergies, they cause breathing problems and so forth, cancer and increased cancer risk and so forth. There's a great deal of collateral damage. I could go on and on about this, but the last thing I want to bring up is that while we have been addressing all these issues with reasoned arguments and statistics and scientific information, there's another huge price to pay, and that is the emotion that people are dealing with. I'm a very calm Midwestern person. I'm optimistic. I'm very stable emotionally, but you can see where I'm at right now. I am angry. I am afraid for my children and their grandchildren. I feel tremendous amount of fear for what's happening to our planet and the animals on it. I am deeply cynical about the influence of the fossil fuel industry on this process of trying to regulate and manage our energy systems. I have a lot of sorrow. And I think that those feelings are all on the negative side, but I'm telling you, underneath all those is a great deal of love for this planet. And that love will make me stick to this fight and stand, and if necessary, lie down under some of those tractors and make them stop. I think it's time to put our lives on the ground for this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alice Brumbach, followed by Rachel Carson or Larson.
I serve as the Executive Administrator of the New York Biomass Energy Alliance, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Alliance and the Board of Directors. The New York Biomass Energy Alliance is a coalition of 50 individuals, businesses, and organizations working together to enhance support, understanding, and use of sustainably produced farm and forest biomass as a source of renewable energy. ESF's Department of Forest and Natural Resources Management is one of our members. We will submit our formal comments at a later date. Our sustaining member, ReEnergy, headquartered in New York, owns and operates biomass to electricity generation facilities in 4 states. 3 of their facilities are in New York's North Country: the Chateaugay facility, the Black River facility, and the Lionsdale facility. These 3 facilities have a combined nameplate capacity of 103 megawatts, enough electricity to serve 96,000 homes. When all 3 facilities are operating, they purchase more than $24 million of sustainably harvested fuel from local suppliers and support more than 500 direct and indirect jobs in northern and central New York. Our sustaining member, New England Wood Pellet, owns and operates 2 state-of-the-art wood pellet manufacturing plants in Schuyler and Deposit. The 2 plants produce 170,000 tons per year of wood pellet fuel, sufficient fuel to heat over 50,000 New York homes and businesses, and displace the consumption of nearly 20 million gallons of imported heating oil. New England Wood Pellet employs 40 people directly and indirectly supports over 200 additional New York jobs. In the past 7 years, these 2 companies have invested more than $95 million in New York. Re-Energy and New England Wood Pellet are part of a larger bioenergy industry, including ACT Bioenergy, Mesa Reduction Engineering and Processing, Current Renewable Energy, and Cogen Power Technologies, among others, that has created and will continue to create permanent jobs and revenue in New York State. We appreciate NYSERDA's recognition that the bioenergy sector is a critical part of the state's energy future. It is an important part of a diverse renewable energy portfolio. It reduces our reliance on fossil fuels, creates jobs, and enhances forest health. Of all renewable energy choices, bioenergy offers the greatest long-term employment and positive rural economic impact. As a rule of thumb, each megawatt of biopower or biothermal supports approximately 5 full-time jobs, 1 direct job in the facility, and 4 indirect jobs in surrounding forests and communities. Rural areas of the state are recognizing the economic and environmental value of biomass-derived energy. For example, sustainability plans recently completed in the North Country, Mohawk Valley, and Southern Tier all recognize and place a high priority on the use of sustainably sourced biomass for heating homes and businesses, electric generation, and combined heat and power. We agree with the draft plan's characterization of bioenergy as possessing some of the highest growth opportunity in the clean energy economy. We further agree that the plan's recommendation to establish smart energy technology hubs involving collaboration between various institutions in the research and development chain. According to the draft plan, gigawatt-hour contributions by wood-based biomass electricity generators have decreased annually since 2008. The recent contract awarded to Re-Energy's Fort Drum facility under the Renewable Portfolio Standard is likely to increase annual contributions, but continued RPS contracting is critically important for the continued viability of biomass in the electricity generation sector. In order to address this issue, we believe the state should focus equally on protecting existing resources as it does on encouraging the building of new resources. This approach is more cost-effective as well. Existing generation does not face the risks and uncertainties intrinsic for new project development, such as permitting and siting. Biomass electricity generators are uniquely vulnerable to the current market of low wholesale energy pricing, as is the experience with a handful of biopower facilities throughout the state. When sufficient RPS revenues do not exist to assist such facilities in the low wholesale market, facilities are shut down. These facilities need an adequate market through the RPS to monetize the value of renewable attributes. Without continued support of existing facilities, the state's renewable energy goals will not be met. We are heartened that the Public Service Commission is currently considering a petition to change contracting methods for the main tier of the RPS and to guarantee more certainty in solicitation frequency. In order to ensure the continued viability of existing facilities, we feel that the adopted state energy plan should point to measures that herald New York's support of renewable baseload power, such as providing greater incentive level predictability and project revenue certainty for existing projects in any such program as hallmarks of New York's commitment to this industry. The New York Biomass Energy Alliance also is heartened that the draft plan calls for reduced reliance on petroleum products for heating buildings and increased transportation alternatives. However, the draft plan does not adequately address the enormous potential for biomass to help reduce dependence on imported fossil heating fuels, such as heating oil and propane. New York homeowners and businesses export $5 billion of wealth annually by their heavy dependence on these non-renewable fossil fuels. Biomass fuels such as wood pellets, chips, logwood, and bio-based liquid heating fuels can greatly diminish the outflow of wealth and support a strong rural economy. The draft plan does not acknowledge this. In January, Governor Cuomo unveiled his Renewable Heat New York initiative in his State of the State address and plan. This high-level recognition by New York's chief executive is symbolic of the growing awareness of the role that biomass can play in helping New Yorkers to heat sustainably and affordably. We eagerly await the completion of NYSERDA's New York Biomass Heating Roadmap, which will chart a strategic plan on how to most effectively harness this resource to address heating needs in the state. The plan drafters would do well to review NYSERDA's draft roadmap when it is released in April. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you very much. Ms. Brombach, can the reporter get a copy of your comments? Thank you very much. Rachel Larson. Dan Rappaport. Rigo Magar. William Houston. My goodness. Oh, thank you.
Hi there. My name is William Houston. I live in Broome County in the heart of the sacrifice zone for fracking. So I just picked up on one statement that somebody previously said, and that is glaring omissions. And I agree with that. The two glaring omissions that I can see, and it's also embodied in your implicit and also explicit call for more natural gas infrastructure. I also want to echo the comment that calling this natural gas is really a misnomer. If we have to smash rock a mile underground that way in order to get this stuff with high explosives, HDX is like one of the highest explosives known to man. It's tipped with depleted uranium in the hydrofracking perf guns. That's not a natural process. That's an extreme process. What you're calling for is extreme energy. And it's a lot more rational. I think people, wind, wave and solar, I think that's been said today. I also want to briefly just comment about accessibility. You've heard that a little bit today. I had to walk a mile carrying about 40 pounds worth of equipment, and I'm like getting kind of an old guy, so I do live a sedentary life. Maybe I just needed a workout. That's probably okay, but I have big problems with the accessibility of this hearing. I go to a lot of hearings, and I haven't had to walk a mile in a long time. Public transportation is one of the glaring omissions, and I want to ask you to look at that because there was a big switch in the early part of the 20th century where in fact, you can even Google this. It was like a conspiracy between General Motors and Firestone to actually buy up all the light rail. The town where Binghamton, New York, where I've lived for about the last 15 years, there's still evidence of trolley tracks on certain of the roads. In my hometown in New Jersey, trolley tracks paved over. We ripped out, that makes the United States less sustainable than, some of the most, rural third world areas in Europe, so we're really backwards by ripping out light rail. Two glaring omissions global warming and peak oil. Global warming, let's just talk about that briefly. If we get to 5 degrees C, I hope you're all like taking notes and not like just writing a grocery list there. If we get to 5 degrees C, there are certain feedback loops that happen in the environment that can actually bump it up to 10 degrees C. At 10 degrees C, anybody knows what happens to the Earth at 10 degrees C? Mass extinction. 95% of all life will be gone. This is in the geologic record. So we are really at a crisis moment. We need radical action from you all. And what we're seeing is more reliance on fracked gas. And it's really not acceptable. And like others have said, when mass extinction is what's on the horizon, there are a lot of people here, and I'm one of them, that will put our bodies on the line in order to protect present life and future generations. And I live downwind and downstream of fracked gas wells in my watershed. Fracking is prohibited in the proposed New York regulations in the New York City watershed with a 4,000-foot setback. I have 96 fracked wells in the middle of my watershed, my upstream water source right now. There are 400,000 New Yorkers that are downwind and downstream of hydrofracking operations in Pennsylvania. And this gas and these infrastructure projects that you are proposing is only going to, I have seen the devastation in Pennsylvania, and you should come and see it for yourself. Come to Bradford County, where my family is from. Come to Susquehanna County and just see what it's like. So please take this back, have additional public hearings with greater accessibility, give us more time to analyze this and study this, and we want a true renewable future for New York. Thank you.
Thank you very much.